The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast. Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Zachary Owen Turner.
I'm Matt Beutner.
And happy Thanksgiving, happy Indigenous Peoples Day week, and welcome back to The Force of Others. We have a nice, huge episode for you. We're very excited. We have some Skeleton Crew. The Skeleton Crew hype train is choo-chooing, you know, like it's chut-chutting. Yeah, it's chut-chutting all the way around. So we got a ton of the Skeleton Crew news. We got some other news that we're going to talk about. Matt has a secret news for me that I don't even know. And we have an interview with the team behind For the Lore. I got to sit down with them and have an amazing interview. So we're gonna have that on the podcast today. Really, I'm excited for you guys to hear that one. And for Matt to hear it. I don't know if, just to like throw it out there, it's so funny because based on schedule, sometimes we're only able to do interviews one-on-one. So whenever I get to listen to the podcast and I haven't heard that interview, I'm like, ooh, I get to listen to the podcast for the first time, you know?
Yeah, I'm in that boat for the first time. I'm excited.
Yeah. Anyways, but before we get all into that, Matt, how was your week? How did Star Wars find you this week?
Star Wars did actually find me on its own this week through the will of the Force, but I'll get there. First, I had a real busy week. Shout out to the Granbury Theater Academy. We had our last performance of the year. Anastasia was on the Granbury Opera House stage. The teenagers did a great job, and then I let the students convince me to have a lock-in/cast party. And so I was basically babysitting until 10 o'clock last night. And all the parents were like, thank you. We're happy to not be there. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But had a real good work week. Very, very good, very fulfilling. And then to dive into my Star Wars week, as I let everybody know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I bought a PlayStation 5.
Woo!
And I have officially peeled off the wrapper and started Star Wars Outlaws. Because It was Tech Week and show weekend, I have played about, I think, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I got through the initial Sixth Kin base, and I got into the Zarek Besh Castle.
Cool.
And then, so we will see if I can finish the game this week.
Well, you started it as a great time because they just did a huge quality of life update, and myself also playing, I was like, oh, this is so much smoother of a gameplay. So
that's what I've been hearing, which, hey, works out for me. Patience pays off, kids. But okay, as for how Star Wars found me, I am very much an equal opportunity nerd. I tend to be a Star Wars purist, right? But I'm also just generally nerdy. And I just found myself watching a Star Trek fan... found myself watching a Star Trek fan film called Unification that is not listed on YouTube. You have to have the link. You can find it if you just Google Star Trek Unification. And what it was is kind of a deep fake thing, no spoilers, but starring Captain Kirk.
Oh.
William Shatner, de-aged and everything, but not played by William Shatner. And I'm watching this thing going, man, the quality is like so good. And this actor that they got to play Captain Kirk, he's got the mannerisms down. Like body language wise, the facial expressions. I'm watching Bill Shatner. And then the cast list comes up, and the guy that played Captain Kirk is Sam Witwer.
Ah.
And I was like, what? And freaked out and paused and looked, and it's all over his Instagram, and it's really, really cool. If you're a Star Trek person at all, I highly recommend checking it out. If you're not a Star Trek person, I don't necessarily recommend it because you'll be like, it's very kind of artsy and more expressive than narrative, and that's what I can say, but I absolutely loved it, and it was Sam Witwer, so Star Wars found me on its own. But Zach, How was your week? How was your Star Wars week?
Yeah, my week was good. My partner was out of town, so I played so much Star Wars Outlaws. I logged a bunch of hours in that game, and I am at the point in the game where it goes, hey, are you sure you want to do this final mission and not do some side quests to make sure that you have everything you need for the final mission? And I went, oh no, I gotta go do some other side quests. But man, I don't know where the dislike for this game is, because I am just having a ball playing that game. I got an upgrade to the speeder where you can go over water on the Akiva planet, and it's gorgeous, you know. I chose to follow it the way that it sets out the worlds, but you don't have to follow it that way. So I am on Akiva last, which seemed very natural. I would be curious to see if it would be different if you start with Akiva, but I don't know. But it's great. There are so many Easter eggs and tiny references to different things in like the Aftermath books, and it's nods to the original trilogy, and it is doing such a good job at taking things that people didn't necessarily like or stuff like that and making them good, and doing the post Star Wars cleanup, specifically on Canto Bight, which I don't know if you felt that way starting the game. You're like, for me it was like, yeah, let's play around this planet.
Yeah, no, I thought it was super cool. I liked that you were seeing kind of the seedy underbelly of this super nice kind of, just swanky casino that we saw in The Last Jedi.
It's going off the strip of Vegas, you know?
Yeah. Spoilers, but I'm just curious. So, sorry, y'all have to listen, everybody. But do you get to go into Canto Bight itself, into, like, the fancy city, or do you stay on the outskirts?
I think that's what the DLC is. Oh, if I read correctly, cool. The DLC is you're working with Lando to infiltrate a Sabacc tournament in the casino.
Okay. So I am about that.
But cool. I met Lando. Whoever's doing the voice, killer job. The acting is great, and just to be like, it's Lando. But it is it is such a fun game, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't want to spoil too much because I know Matt's just about to start playing it, but there's a moment on Tatooine that I was like,
You sang like a Muppet when you saw this moment.
And Kai was like, because I played it when Kai was away, and she's like, oh, what happened? Like, tell me about the game. And I told her, and she's like, I wanted to see that. I was like, I'm sorry, honey.
That's what you get for going on vacation.
Yeah.
It reminds me, it wasn't something Jenny was excited about, but several years ago now, I had gotten Star Wars news, and I screamed and fell off the couch, and Jenny came running into the room like something was wrong, and I looked at her and realized the noise that I made, and I was like, Ewan McGregor just officially announced that he's coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she was like, oh my god, and left the room. It's like, I'm sorry, I love you. Yep,
you probably did your, knowing Matt, it was his Muppet Kermit the Frog yell.
Pretty sure it was somewhere along the lines of that. But
sorry for your ears, listeners.
I slightly got away from the mic, but that's what we have an editor for. Thanks, Nate. But okay, so we've talked about the Star Wars that we are experiencing currently. As for the Star Wars that we're going to start experiencing next week, we're going to begin our deep dive of all the news, the huge, just stockpile of news that has been coming out in the last 2 weeks for Skeleton Crew. And let's start us off, Zach.
Yeah, so we got, so much news. But first thing is a quote from Jude Law talking about his time filming as Jon Anawud. My relationship with this world was as a child, and I love the idea that we see it in the series through their eyes. There's a wonderment to it. There's still jeopardy and risk, but the idea of bringing it back to the children's perspective was just brilliant. Thoughts, Matt?
Yeah. It's why I'm so excited about this show. George Lucas said time and time and time again that Star Wars is for 12-year-olds. And the people that get upset about that, it's like, hey, man, when you found this stuff, you were probably about 12, if not younger. There's other quotes about how this show is for kids, featuring kids, but not exclusively for kids, but that it's from their perspective. And I am very, very excited for that. I don't want to say, like, this is what Star Wars should be, but in a way, this is a flavor that Star Wars has always had, that it feels like it's the first time they are doubling down on just being specific with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the first time that we've really gotten a child perspective, like an actual child perspective in the universe. Like, we've never had children be, I mean, unless you count Ezra.
Or like Ahsoka. Well, I mean, Ahsoka, Omega, we've had it, but we have never... I don't really count Anakin in Star Wars Episode 1 because he's very much a sidekick.
Yeah.
You know, the Episode 1's weird in that way in that it doesn't have a point of view character, but like Rebels and Bad Batch, Omega and Ezra are very much the point of view characters. So we haven't had it in live action, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. And Ezra, I mean, that Rebels is fantastic. So
yes, sir.
So hopefully it translates. Again, every interview that Jude Law does, and I know he's promoting the show, but it does seem like he genuinely had such a good time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, so now for some actual news, something that did get revealed. We have a name of the home planet for Skeleton Crew, Aten. A-T space A-T-T-I-N.
It's an A-T-H-E-T-I-N.
And that, at Aten, was once known as the crown jewel of the Old Republic. And we got some quotes from the showmakers, from Chris Ford. The kids grow up there, it's peaceful, it's nice, and the kids don't like it because they're bored. But if you're on Tatooine, or in the middle of a battle, you would love to go to this place. And then from John Watts, there's definitely more to this planet than meets the eye, but we don't want to say too much. Zach, what are your reactions to that?
Yeah, the name... It's fine. I was like, is it a reference to an AT-AT? Because... it's probably some deep cut that I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense if it's going to be that developed of a planet to have cul-de-sacs, to have it be a crown jewel planet from way back when. It makes sense. It's just developed, and now it's a safe planet. And it's nice. I think it's great to have safe planets in Star Wars. I mean, I think the last safe planet we saw was maybe Naboo, where it just seemed like normal life was going on, but even that was in a war, so have we ever seen a planet that's not at war in Star Wars?
Well, and I
mean, it is called Star Wars, so...
You're right. I don't know that we have... And that was part of why, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, at least me. I don't remember if you did, but I bumped up against the suburbs in Star Wars, right?
Yeah, you did.
And I accepted it, but kind of part of what got me past it was the trailer and seeing that, the story they're telling is kids, or at least the main character, wants to escape his normal, boring life, and he wants to go on an adventure. And then the creators have said... in other interviews this past week, that's the vibe they were going for. They wanted to show normalcy and like just that wistfulness that they had that they were kids, where the normal life is boring. And I could say I got that vibe from Luke Skywalker standing on top of a sand dune, right? So I don't think you have to literally make 1980s Chicago to be like, do you get it? Do you get it? that they want to get away from this. They're bored, But I'm excited for new things. Yeah. I talked over you. Do you have anything else to say? Sorry, man.
No. I was looking for your insight. No, I mean, I agree. I don't know. It's a cul-de-sac planet. Like.
That's the real name.
I think that's all we're gonna get from it, though. I don't think we're gonna explore the planet that much. I think we're just gonna get their like hometown that's boring.
Well, but it's that they did say there's more to this. There's definitely more to this planet than meets the eye, but we don't want to say too much.
Do you ever read Ready Player One?
Yeah,
do you think
time ago, but I did.
So the spoilers for Ready Player One, the book. The first key that they have to find in the thing is on the planet that is the school planet, which is the safe planet. You think that eventually they have to get back home because that's where the pirate treasure is?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, because there was something else that I forgot to put in the show notes that I think this came out on StarWars.com, where because there's been interviews all over the place, and I was trying to keep up with it. When we did the Star Wars holiday special last week, we didn't do any of this news. But something that came out in an interview on StarWars.com was that as the kids go out into the galaxy, no one they encounter has heard of Aden. No one's heard of this planet. So there is something going on that's different, and it makes me wonder if it was once known as the crown jewel of the Old Republic, like they've said. Is this actually an old Republic planet?
Oh, like old Republic.
Like old Republic. The government that existed like thousands upon thousands of years before the Star Wars that we know. And so is there some type of weird...
And it might not even be part of the New Republic.
Right. Is there some type of strange, experiment happening on this planet where they're making a society that seems good, but it's actually kind of messed up?
Cool.
So I'm wondering if there is something going on.
Excuse me, sorry.
That's all good. Transformer style, more than meets the eye. Dadgum, you all right, man?
Yep. Sorry, allergies.
It is that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so at Aden, and mysteries to be revealed, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the one thing I was going to use, it was to segue it into the next thing, which is we got a little interview with a filmmaker round table, and in it they talk about kids. John Watts and Ford talk about growing up in Colorado and being just going out into the woods seeking adventure. Because life is stable and boring. And I forgot the term they use, but they use it's almost like wanderlust, but not quite.
I got nothing.
But did you get to watch the round table?
I did.
Yeah. But it's great. I mean, 4 of them are friends from college. I didn't realize that they got the Daniels to do an episode, which were the directors from Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is maybe the best movie to come out in the past 10 years. Yeah. That movie is killer. So to have them on, I'm super excited to see what they do. They talk about the kids and just how wonderful the filming was, because the kids were so excited just to be in Star Wars, and so they brought the energy and the excitement every day. And one of them dressed up as John Watts for Halloween, which was so funny. But the thing that really stuck out to me is talking about John Watts and Chris Ford's style, because we've talked about it before. We're like, yeah, John Watts, he's the one that does, not John Williams, what's his name? From the 80s, the director.
John Hughes.
Yeah, he does John Hughes in modern day. And he talks about, he's like, yeah, we don't really think about, trying to emulate a style. I just write it, and then we go from there. And I'm surprised with what we end up referencing, because it's just so ingrained in his blood, these movies that he grew up on, and the different references. And one of the other directors brings up that they did do the pirate radio play that we talked about before, but I didn't realize that they did all the pirate voices. Ford and Watts did all the pirate voices in their student project. So it's just cool to see how ingrained just into their writing their references are, and how John Hughes is just, we all equate it to him, but it's just an influence on him as a person. So
yeah.
Any takeaways for you from the interview?
Yeah, I was very happy to see this style of sit-down roundtable talk return. They haven't really done anything like this with these Star Wars streaming shows since what they called the Gallery for Mandalorian Season 1, which was 5 years ago now.
And we still talk about, Star Wars fans still talk about that roundtable.
Oh, yeah, because of the Dave Filoni quote where he lays down episode 1, and I'm sitting here like, preach it! Yes!
Yeah.
But I'll put it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But if you haven't heard that Dave Filoni sermon about the Phantom Menace, you should. But I was very happy to see that return. And then, takeaways from me from that, obviously the love of pirates that John Watts and Chris Ford have had since they were kids. But two things that they talked about how they wanted to portray in the show. Mm-hmm. The child's realization that not all adults are good.
Yeah.
That, like, if you are blessed to have a healthy home life, as a kid, you just kind of assume that all adults are, like, cool.
Yeah.
And, like, to be trusted. And the realization that they're not all good and to be trusted, which I think ties into the speculation that we've both had many times about Jude Law. But the other thing, and this was something they talked about with Kathleen Kennedy, that this is a grown-up show that happens to star kids.
Yeah.
That they're trying to combine a childlike sense of wonder with real, actual stakes. Now, I don't think it's going to be grown up like Andor style, right? I think it's going to be grown up like Star Wars Episode 4, where, like, Luke
Can you imagine, though?
Oh, my gosh.
Look here, Neil. You're not going to be the pilot because I'm the mother
And he's, like,
effing pilot.
slapping him, and then Neil falls and gets crushed by a box. But anyway, Nemec style. But no, I think it's going to be grown up in the way that, like, Star Wars was originally. A New Hope, Luke sees his aunt and uncle dead. Like, sees their bodies dead. But it is overall a very lighthearted, fun, rip-roaring adventure that has real stakes and stuff. I think that's what we're getting here. And then the last thing that stuck out to me, because I just thought it was hilarious, that just talking about their the creation process of the show, they reached out to Dave Filoni and they're like, hey, can we do this weird thing? Is it in Star Wars now? And Dave's just like, or is it in Star Wars? And Dave just says, well, it's in Star Wars now.
Yeah, he was talking about
like,
the tassels on the bikes.
Yeah.
Do they have tassels in Star Wars? No, they do now.
They do now. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And the other thing that I'll say, whenever you get to hear the people that are making Star Wars talk about the process of making Star Wars, it seems like they're having a good time. So despite all of the doom and gloom that you see on the internet, it seems like they're having fun making these things.
I also got to say, I think it is a thing that is ingrained in a certain generation of Star Wars fans to want to see directors talk about Star Wars. And I think it's something that we need to bring back because I don't know, I grew up watching the VHSs, and to get to the movie, you had to watch George Lucas talk about the film. And he talked about the filmmaking and all that. It's like... And so to me, like, hearing a director sit down and do an interview about Star Wars is so ingrained into what I know Star Wars to be, even though I fast-forwarded it half the times. I ended up watching it the other half, of just George being like, yeah, when we were doing this film, like, we had no money, and so, yeah.
So that's why we're going to go back and we're going to fix it. The special editions are the only version.
But I love watching the creative process, specifically behind Star Wars, and so getting all this news is like, it's like candy to me,
Yeah, man, I love it. And shout out to Ian Wilkins at Spiky Tortoise, the animator of the Dark Empire movie. He talked about the exact same thing. Yeah, that those interviews. I forget the guy that interviewed George on the old VHSs, but he was like a big deal. But anyway, that those interviews are what initially got him interested in storytelling. Shout out to another Star Wars behind-the-scenes thing. One of my favorite documentaries, I hesitate to say favorite documentary ever, but I'm going to say it. One of my favorite documentaries ever is Episode 1, The Beginning, the making of Phantom Menace. Just that you get into the weeds on everything that they went through making that movie, and I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah. The interviewer was Leonard Maltin.
That's the name. Good pull. Okay. Well, speaking of deep pulls, Skeleton Crew is going to recreate something from the holiday special.
I think I know what it is.
Oh, we know what it is. They haven't said what it is, but it becomes very, very obvious by the end of it what it is.
Yeah.
So having just viewed the holiday special as a podcast, I can appreciate... I don't know that anyone will ever know how much I can appreciate Skeleton Crew's willingness to reference the weird parts of Star Wars. Let's do it, But so here's a quote from John Watts. Recreating this scene ended up being 20 times more work than we anticipated. Our stunt coordinator is the main performer in this sequence, and he was able to re-choreograph the routine too, because it's a very acrobatic routine. I will say, without saying what it is, which is pretty obvious now, it was so much work and it was so worth it. My favorite part. So, Zach, what do you think it is, even though it's pretty obvious?
Well, I think it's the whip slip. No, I'm kidding. It has to be the acrobatic routine. You know, he talks about how acrobatic it is. It has to be the blonde or the bald elf-like with the weird beard and the thing. It has to be that. It has to be. Which I am vindicated because when we were watching it, I was like, "Where's this alien? Bring him back! Why haven't they brought him back?" And what does John Watts do? Exactly what I asked for.
Well, and you said that we should cosplay as him, and I was like, I don't know. But if it's going to be in a mainstream, like, Star Wars show, it's going to start being cosplayed.
Oh, yeah.
This is hilarious. I'm just so excited. It's got to be... Do you think it's got to just be, like, background entertainment in a bar, right? There's no way we're going to the circus.
I bet it's... I don't think we're going to the circus, but I could also see it being a hologram that the kids are watching.
That checks out.
Like,
maybe it's just
life
like
is
TV
so
in the
boring. We're watching the hologram projector of the. It's the opposite of Lumpy going. You know.
Yeah, it's the opposite of
like,
Lumpy enjoying it. They're like, life sucks so much. We have to watch the circus from the holiday special. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Now I want that to be what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
But
well,
I can't believe how many 80s Star Wars movies they're referencing, because they have that. They have the little worm from Battle from Endor. Like, they're full on being like, hey, remember all of those things that you're like, that's not canon. I don't care. Please don't ever show us that again. It's all playing now.
They're like, we don't care. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're giving you 80s Star Wars.
Which I love. I love that they're like taking, again, I feel like we're in the era of let's take things that we didn't like in Star Wars and make them relevant and good again. You know, like let's take it, let's rework it and see if we can like actually make it play.
Well, it's the thing about putting Hayden Christensen in Ahsoka and not having it be Matt Lanter, right?
Which you could have done, but
yeah, they absolutely could have. But they were like, no. Filoni was like, I'm gonna have Anakin Skywalker come back, played by the same guy.
Yeah.
You know, despite
I think
all
fans
the
would have been so mad if it was Matt Lanter.
Well, I mean, this is a sidebar. Like, they probably would have. I remember being so baffled, just us being slightly older than the generation that now is in their 20s and loves the prequels, and it's their Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I was 10 when Episode 1 came out, so I was just old enough to when Episode 2 and 3 came out, I was like, I don't know if I love this yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but when they announced that Hayden was coming back for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and they were going to fight, I was like, why? I mean, good for him, cool, but why? And then all the younger people that I was talking to about it, they were hyped. They were so stoked. And I was like, you know, these Star Wars things, they play differently when you're younger. It's just... It's not, I wish it was something else. It's, no, this is what it is. You know?
Yeah, and we've talked about it.
Things.
10 years from now, we're going to get a whole group of people being like, you know, Rise of Skywalker is my favorite movie.
I'm telling you, it's coming. There will be people that will, without a doubt, be talking about how the sequels are just as good as everything else, and they will proclaim that like it's fact. And I'm not trying to crap on the sequels or the kids that love them right now. I'm just saying it happened with the prequels. It is going to happen again. I promise you.
Time heals
all.
It might take
another 5-10 years, but absolutely it does. And you know, perspective is everything.
Yeah.
But so, there's no segue. So I got a secret story that I found. This is from an article on inverse.com written by Deus Johnson. And so my headline is Jude Law playing a Sith. So, and there's evidence to this.
Are you talking about the old Sith writing on the wall?
Yes. Yeah. And that Jod is reading it. So this interviewer, she said, when I asked Law point blank if Jod was a Sith, he gave a coy answer. He said, the quote, "It's really complicated. I can't answer it directly. I'm going to do a duck and dive and dodge and weave. Jod is many things to many people. I'll say that he's a survivor, and it's complicated." Mm-hmm. Then when she brings up the photo to him that he appears to be like pointing at and reading Sith writing.
Yeah.
So what she says is that Jude Law says someone knows their stuff and pointed at the camera and then changed the subject. So Zach, what do you get from that?
Well, I mean, we see him use the Force in the trailer, so maybe we're wrong. Maybe he's not a grifter like the guy from Kenobi. Maybe he does have Force powers, and maybe he's a reformed Sith. You know, we've seen it before. I mean, we've seen Asajj Ventress has reformed and is now not a Sith. You know, so he could be a former Sith assassin. He could be. I mean, he's old enough in the timeline to have been something to Palpatine or Vader. So, but not too old to be something to like young Palpatine, young Vader. You know, like it's got to be original trilogy Inquisitor maybe, or Sith assassin or something like that.
I think. So I do still think that he's going to turn heel.
Oh, for sure.
I still think he's Captain Hook to the droid SM-33 to Smee, right? Yeah. I think he's a former Inquisitor that escaped and is now a pirate, and so he's got the Force, but I don't think he's like a Vader-level threat or anything like that. But I'm thinking this is a former Inquisitor turned space pirate that will do whatever he needs to do. Wouldn't it be wild if they say he's the first brother?
That would be wild because Ahsoka kills him. But anyways, in new Star Wars, if you get stabbed in the middle of your stomach, you're fine.
Can you imagine if that comes back again? Oh man!
Justice for Qui-Gon.
The discourse that will descend upon us like a plague. But anyway, so that is kind of our just, word vomiting of all of the Skeleton Crew, last tidbits and nuggets. We got Addin coming. There's been different synopses coming out talking about how the show is about kids getting lost in a strange galaxy. They've also said it is the Star Wars galaxy. Just, Zach, do you have any final thoughts on what will ultimately be our next 7 weeks of podcasting? Because it's going to be the next 7 weeks. Our Skeleton Crew weeks. Yeah,
I mean, I'm excited for it. You know, we're getting a double episode, 2-episode drop on Tuesday.
Next week. Yep.
Next week. I don't know. I'm here for it, man. Like, I'm excited. I'm, buckled up, ready to go. I'm going in with probably too high expectations because I'm really excited about it. So I hope it's good. I hope it's Mandalorian season 1 good. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I also hope we get a little bit more 1980s music turned into diegetic music like the trailer. So,
I do wonder.
Give me a Jefferson Star. If you're bringing back Holiday Special, we got to have a Jefferson Stardust cameo or like a Jefferson Stardust song playing. That's what I would do.
We have to hear Light the Sky on Fire.
Yeah.
You have to. It's got to be the song from that show. It wouldn't surprise me if the trailer music was just trailer music.
Oh, for sure.
But it's definitely possible. It's absolutely possible. I too am hyped for Skeleton Crew. I am ready for Star Wars Pirates to show up. I'm excited for Stranger Things in Star Wars. That is a very, very natural fit to me. Mm-hmm. It's kind of wild that they haven't done this yet in a way, It's weird. I am not like over the moon hyped excited, and because of that I do expect to really like this show. It's just because everything I hear about it I'm like, that sounds good. If you stay true to the Goonies Stranger Things vibe, I will probably like this. And while Acolyte had its blemishes for sure, it was a solid show. It was not the dumpster fire a lot of people treat it to be, in my opinion. Yeah. But if this show is what they say it is, it will hands down be my favorite Star Wars of this year, and it won't even be close.
Yeah.
Probably won't even be up. It might be my favorite of the last couple years. But I'm a sucker for an easygoing good time. And then I do want to say real quick, just bring back up Andor. Let's talk about the hilarious tonal shift that we're going to have. This supposedly happy-go-lucky, fun story about like parents and kids and Wizard of Oz go over the rainbow only to want to come back home and all that stuff. This just very heartwarming family show, and then we're going to transition into Andor season 2 like 3 months later.
Yeah. Gritty Star Wars. Well, speaking of things coming out next year, we also got the news that Star Wars Visions is coming back. Volume 3 of Star Wars Visions. Matt, have you watched the Visions yet?
I have.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest anime fan, so it just bumps me in a way where, but I loved a lot of it. The Ninth Jedi is just good.
So
stuff.
Good. Yeah.
But I know Eurovision's like this is
I love
where you
it.
live.
I love Visions.
Cool.
I'm a little weeb, so I do enjoy some anime. But yeah, we got a list of different production studios that are doing it. I think we're a little bit in and out of Japan this time. Yeah. So last year's second volume was a global tour from Japan, India, United Kingdom, Ireland, Spain, Chile, France, South Africa, South Korea, and the U.S. In this one, we will be getting 9 shorts from 9 different anime studios, including contributors Kamikaze Duga and more. There's a lot. I'm not gonna butcher all these names. The next installment will also introduce 5 new anime studios to the world of Star Wars, which I'm very excited about. It looks like we're back to Japan mainly for this next one, which is cool. I mean, what a gift to be given, to be like, hey, you could do anything. You literally don't have to worry about canon. You don't have to worry about anything. Just do something cool. Like, I want a Star Wars. I want to write a Star Wars Visions.
Dude, yes. Yeah, that is one of my, and like I should say, I've liked everything that I've seen from Visions. It's just me and my the style of anime of itself just kind of, it's not my favorite thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't want to take anything away from it. What I have seen from that show is like just so much quality and so much pure fun. I like that they let them just go wild, show us things that don't make sense and are strange and fun and don't have to adhere to canon.
Yeah, they even have an episode that's like they do a lightsaber move that's like forbidden amongst the Jedi and the Sith, where he like deactivates his lightsaber to kill the old guy. Like, I remember when that came out, people were like, "What? You can do that?"
It's Visions is the only thing that has gotten it's the only like non-canon thing that has had extended material for it. Like there was a novel tying into the Ronin short,
which is also so good.
Season 1. And then there's been other comics, but I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited that that's still coming. Because new weird stuff. We like new weird strange stuff.
Have you read that book? I haven't gotten.
I haven't. I heard it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, the little thing about me, it takes me a long time to read things.
Yeah.
I'm still working my way through Mace Windu and the Glass Abyss. But that's cool, but it's very, very sci-fi heavy. So you got any other thing to say about Visions?
No, I'm just excited. I hope that there is something in there that I go, give me a whole season of, because every season so far there's been at least one episode that I'm like, can we continue it? Can we get like a whole series of this, please?
Well, and there are some returning studios. It is entirely possible that we could get some sequel shorts. We could get like the Ninth Jedi Part 2 or something like that, or the Duel Part 2 or what have you.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's Star Wars that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
As for Star Wars that we might have to wait a little longer for, supposedly, some news came out a couple weeks ago now that a quote-unquote untitled Star Wars film has been removed from the December 2026 release date.
Yeah.
Now, it was never confirmed which one this was, or when it was supposed to go into production, or whatever. My biggest takeaway is that this is a good thing, and I don't know why anybody was mad about it. It's what we've been saying for weeks ago on the show.
Yeah.
That Mando and Grogu is coming out in May of 2026, which is the same thing as Solo, because it's at the same time as Avengers, which is the same thing that happened to Solo, and that they had on the schedule another movie to come out 6 months later, which again is all the same stuff from Solo.
Yeah.
So this is a good thing. Like, I don't know. Everybody was
I don't
like,
even,
"Whoa."
because they were like, we're only going to do one movie a year, and then they were like, but 2026 we're going to do 2 movies. It's like, okay, well, you're
And
sticking to your plan.
it may have very well been that this was a plan a while ago, and again, the entertainment strike happened.
Yeah.
After the Filoni, the Harmino Obaid Chinoy, and oh my gosh, and then I forget his name. The guy that made Logan and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the new Jedi Order
Kinberg.
film. Nope.
No. The other one.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. They announced those 3 movies at Celebration 2023, and then we
Yeah.
went straight into an 8-month entertainment strike. 3 years was too short of a turnaround for J.J. Abrams to want to sign on to The Force Awakens. He wanted them to push it to summer 2026. And they said, well, what about December 2015? And he was like, fine. So 3 years is not going to be enough time to make a movie, especially when you cut off 8 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is no version of this that I see this as a bad thing. If it had been announced and shot and cast and like all that stuff and was in the bag and then they made you wait, like, just kidding, it's going to come out, 6 months later or a year later, I'd be like, this is interesting.
Especially
But
if they
in this
made you
case-
wait and put in Ice Age 6, which is what has replaced it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You would want to put an Ice Age movie out in December. Like, I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought it was dumb. Grifters got to grift, and you got to make it seem like there's fires when there's not.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you got anything else to say about that?
No, I mean, like, it's like, oh, cool, the movie that we didn't know what it was going to be, we're not going to get until it's ready. Great.
Exactly.
Cool.
Anyway.
Especially with the, like, what movie is even going to come out next, because it's Mando and Grogu, and then I think the next thing filming is Dawn of the Jedi. But if that's just now filming, how is that supposed to be ready?
But they haven't started yet. I think it was that he said that they might start filming soon. But yeah, I don't know. We don't know what's next. That's part of the whole thing. This may have been the Rey film that was supposed to come out. This may have been the Dawn of the Jedi film that was supposed to come out in December. But these plans shift and they change, and that's good. Yeah. I would rather take the time to do it right than rush it out. So there you go.
100%.
But okay. So Zach referenced it earlier. So Zach, do a preamble for our interview for the week.
Yeah, so we are interviewing for the lore this week, Ben and Kylie. When we started this podcast, we had a couple of people that were like, "Oh, it'd be really cool to have them on," and the For the Lore crew is one of my top people, so I'm super excited to have them on. Such a wonderful interview. And if you haven't checked out their channel, please do. They have a whole series of like $13 props, so you can get like cheaper Star Wars props literally from Amazon, like some really, really just like creative content over there. And super, super nice people. Ben and Kylie were so just wonderful to interview. We're their first interview ever, so, woohoo!
Nice!
Which is pretty cool. So big thank you beforehand to even hearing the interview to Ben and Kylie. Thank you for letting us interview, and we'll throw it over to me. And here we are with the For the Lore team. Thank you so much for coming on, Ben and Kylie. Great to meet you. How are you all doing this week?
We're good. We're like happy to be doing this again. Like first podcast experience. Had a lot of people ask us to be on podcasts, and we didn't really get how it works. But here we are, and you're our first podcast.
Oh. Well, we are. We're very grateful to have you on. I said this before we started recording, but you guys were top of my list to get on the podcast. We have our interview template, which is getting to know you questions. I'm so excited to hear how both of you got into Star Wars, or how it has influenced you. And but before we started all that, I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about your channel. How did you start your channel? How did you come up with the For the Lore brand? Like, what is the lore behind For the Lore?
Yeah. It's like, I think like a lot of social media accounts, it was a product of the pandemic. Except the entirety of the pandemic, I was posting like YouTube videos And then after the pandemic ended, I started to do short form on like TikTok and Instagram. And I realized I should have been doing that probably the whole time, because that was super popular during the pandemic, like TikTok and Instagram, and I was so late to it. But yeah, and like the title For the Lore just like came. I was just like, me and my friend were gonna start this channel together. He has since like departed from the project, and we have Kylie now. So I met Kylie. We started dating after I formed the channel already, but the name of it just came in like a dream, as weird as that is. I think we were just brainstorming names for our channel, and I was like, I just like that. I don't think it exists already. It kind of internally rhymes, and it's not, although we're a Star Wars channel, it's not like necessarily completely exclusive to Star Wars. If we want to branch out, like at the beginning we did a lot of Pokemon and Marvel. So I just like that it's a general For the Lore. I was surprised that it wasn't taken yet, or used in any capacity. And that's just, sort of how it started. And then Kylie got involved once we met, and I was like, wow, okay, you're like also going to be a Star Wars fan now.
I love that. So another question about the channel. I gotta know, because the way I got into your channel was the $13 prop series, which is amazing. I actually have the Obi-Wan Kenobi like little wallet. I take it to Ren Fair every year, and I'm always
my god, yes,
this is from Kenobi.
Yes.
I gotta know, how do you find these props? Like, how, like, is it just like knowledge of like seeing things and go, oh, I think I know what that is, or?
Yeah, so like I started that. That's definitely what like started building out the following on both TikTok and Instagram. And I started that just because I realized that there were a lot of creators that spent a lot of money on Star Wars like we have great people like Star Wars Replicas or like Dad of Xander. I don't know if you see those guys all over Instagram, and like they clearly have amazing jobs that make them a lot of money, and they could buy high-end, like super, super high-end Star Wars props. And I was like, do you really need to spend all that money to have a truly authentic prop? And then I started to just look into the background of all of the Star Wars projects and found that a lot of them are just household items that you'd modify slightly or not at all. And there you have it, like a fully authentic Star Wars prop. And then once that series took off, I started to get like hundreds and hundreds of DMs of just like people then sharing their thing, like what they've found in Star Wars, which has helped enormously. So I guess I started it, and then I just like a lot of it was just sent to me, and then of course I would still vet it, and I would make sure that the prop like really authentically matches up with what's on screen before making a video of it myself. And that's just how that began.
Sisu's really wanting to be in this video.
So cute. For our listeners, you can't see the dog, but it is the cutest little puppy.
She is really wanting to make a guest star.
Oh yeah. Sisu, how did you get into Star Wars? Was it through your dad?
It runs in her genes.
Yeah, she's actually named after. We're so into playing the Disney Lorcana trading card game.
Yeah, my partner plays that.
Oh, really? Oh my god,
so
yes. If you start playing, let us know, because we are big in the New York City Lorcana scene.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we can go to Hex and Co. Yeah.
Sisu's named after a very niche Disney character. I don't know if you know.
I don't know that one. No.
Oh, it's
from
niche.
Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah.
That is the
movie
one
is great,
gap.
Though. We really like. She's such a good card in the game.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's always really hard to explain to people what her name is, because they're like, "What?"
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Also very into Lorcana.
That's great. And then Kylie, how is it coming onto the For the Lore brand? Like, how is that whole experience?
You'll hear a little bit more about how I got into Star Wars, but I became a fan later. I actually did not grow up with Star Wars at all. But then once me and Ben started dating, I got super duper into it, and I started just being on the channel like a tiny bit. I would do some unboxings. He was getting me like my first lightsaber and indoctrinating me into the lore. And then the more I got into it, I sort of started discovering things as we were watching, and he would be like, that's a great video idea, make a video on it. And so he was just nice enough to let me join, and it's become something fun to do together and discover things together. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into our first question, and I'm going to start with you, Kylie. Where were you when you first saw Star Wars, or what is your first Star Wars memory?
Yeah, super, again, like, sometimes I get a little imposter syndrome because I did not become a fan until last summer of 2023.
Hey.
I had not seen any of it, which is shocking because I grew up in a family of 2 older brothers, so I was the only girl, but I just had never watched it. When on me and Ben's first date, I had, stalked him and found For the Lore. And when I asked him about it, he was like, oh, it's like not that big of a deal. You don't need to worry about it. Like, he told me I didn't need to watch it. And I came to his apartment. It's all Star Wars themed. And I left and I was like, no, I have to, clearly, if I actually want this man to like me, I need to watch this. And we had so many other things in common that I kind of was able to trust that if he liked it, I probably would too.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not going to mansplain it to you. I'm not going to force you to watch it. So if you really want to get into it, just like pick up wherever you think is interesting. And so I started with The Mandalorian.
Very cool.
And then from there watched Rebels. We watched that together to prepare for Ahsoka. And then I watched everything. I think I've seen every single piece of Star Wars now. I haven't seen every single episode of Clone Wars, but I've seen most of it. And
it's okay. There's some episodes you just don't have to watch. So.
Yeah. But I really fell in love with it. I watched all of Star Wars within like 4 months.
Wow.
Just like every day was watching a new piece of it, and just learned how fun of a community it is to be a part of. And I had also already loved visiting Galaxy's Edge and Disney. Like, Rise of Resistance was already my favorite ride before I even knew what it was when I had gone on it the first time. So it was just an easy thing for me to, like, delve into.
Yeah. I like, fully told you didn't have to
I'm, like, 99% sure that that's the reason why he loves me.
I, like, have had, like, I've had past relationships where they're just not into movies or TV or, like, art and all. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Like, you're already into theater. And I feel like if, like, you're into theater, you should probably also be into Star Wars, because like every theater kid grew up watching The Wizard of Oz, right? Like, and we both realized we watched The Wizard of Oz pretty much every day, like since we were toddler, like, and then also now watching Wicked, like the world building of Wizard of Oz transfers over like so like seamlessly into like becoming a Star Wars fan. So it's just like, if you're into theater, you're gonna be into Star Wars. Like,
I just saw 2 cosplayers as Elphaba and Glinda have a lightsaber fight, and I was like, this is everything.
Yes. I saw that video too. I was like, there's definitely like crossover there. So like, even though I told you didn't have to get into it, I was like, if you're into theater, if you're genuinely into theater, you're naturally going to eventually come around to Star Wars anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So did you know like Darth Vader was Luke's father and all that, or was that a big reveal to you?
I knew most of the like spoilers, but it didn't make it any less like I was still so drawn in, and I didn't know how I was going to get to that point. So even though I knew eventually I would hear him say that, it was still, it didn't diminish the experience at all. I mean, I'm sure it was a better experience for people that didn't know that. I know that was like a crazy moment, but I still like fell in love.
Yeah, I realized like if you like, I tell people Mandalorian is a great starting point, but then I realized when you get to season 2 and you get to that Luke reveal at the end, it like might. So I think I did have you watch original trilogy before season 2, I think. But then again, at the same time, like if you watch season 2 first, then you could just be like, oh, that's that in the original trilogy. That's that guy from Mando season 2, and I'm like, it totally works that way too. Like if you ask any opinion about like how to watch Star Wars, my answer is it just simply doesn't matter. Like everything is going to be a prequel and a sequel from like here on out. So just enjoy the ride.
I think that's a great way to go about it. I'm glad you had a good guide.
I also had no idea like how Anakin's journey was going to go.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so especially watching Revenge of the Sith, I was like,
mm-hmm.
This is how it got here.
Yeah, that movie slaps.
It does.
It's hard.
It does slap. Well, same question to you, Ben. Where were you when you first saw Star Wars?
Yeah, so I'm like totally a prequel kid. Like I grew up seeing the prequels. I guess not even Phantom Menace because I'm a '95 baby. So like I saw Attack of the Clones when I was really young in theaters, and then Revenge of the Sith was like the one that was the one. But before even doing that, I totally would always watch the original trilogy on VHS, like on my like big clunky TV in my room.
Yeah.
And I watched, and it was just, actually it wasn't even that. I think it was just A New Hope. I just had a VHS of A New Hope. And I would watch that over and over and over again, and I would reenact like the hallway scene. Like cool. That's what I fixate on the most, is I would just like watch it and reenact the hallway scene and just all the rebels getting killed by Darth Vader. And like, that's sort of my earliest memory, is just like VHS of A New Hope reenacting hallway scene. Similarly to how when I was really little, I'd watch The Wizard of Oz literally every day. And then that transitioned into watching A New Hope every day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
His childhood bedroom is like fully transforms you into like...
Yeah, like a Star Wars kid's which is still mostly intact. Like, thanks to my parents, they've kept that room more or less the same. And now I have like a baby nephew. Yeah.
Like I step in and I'm like, oh, this is what it was like to be a prequels kid.
Yeah, and now I have a baby nephew, so maybe he'll also enjoy that room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He might steal your toys.
Exactly. Got to keep the rarer ones higher up on the shelves.
Yeah.
As he gets older.
I have a little brother, and one time in college, I went to a Star Wars convention with my co-host, and I bought him like old 1970s toys. And I imagine that your room was very similar, where you're just like, oh yeah, I gotta get every toy that I can get, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huge. And also like crazy into the Legos. Not so much anymore, because like when you build Legos, you realize there's no place to put them anymore. But
it's hard as an adult.
As an adult, Legos, like you need a whole ass house to like really be a Lego collector as an adult. But as a kid, like I would let my parents deal with it. Like, put this somewhere. I made it. But yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start with Ben first on this one. Who is your favorite Star Wars hero?
Like, my mind always goes straight to Yoda, just because he's the most like imaginative, most unique. Just that creation is just so inherently Star Wars. I don't know if my answer is Yoda because of how flawed he can be also. The question is so layered. Like, I guess in terms of morality and like the best hero, it's probably Obi-Wan. But my mind always goes straight to like Yoda is just so iconic. Like, I just love that little green dude. Like, that's my guy.
What a swing creatively, right? For them to go, let's make a tiny little green Muppet.
Like that is, I think, there's a few things that I don't think we would have Star Wars be what Star Wars is now. And two of them, I think, one is Yoda and the other is John Williams. Yeah,
definitely.
Obviously, George Lucas is somewhere in the mix.
You gotta take a nod, you know.
It's the new documentary everyone needs to watch.
Yeah, oh my god, the John Williams documentary was like mind-blowing. I like cried
the whole time.
Oh yeah? I didn't know it was out. I'll have to watch it.
Oh yeah, on Disney Plus. It's like amazing. Like amazing. Yeah.
There used to be a podcast that I used to listen to that used to do a segment called Star Wars Oxygen, and they would it was David Baker, and he would analyze from a music theory perspective what John Williams does, and every time I was coming from the musical background like you guys, it's like, oh yeah, no, cool, most of episode 3 is in 3, yes, I love it, but
just realizing the sheer amount of any movie that you can think of that has a score that stands out, it was him.
Yeah. His output was
crazy.
insane. Yeah.
Insane. Well, Kylie, same question. Who is your favorite hero? Coming into it a little bit later.
I think that mine is Hera.
Yeah! Heck yeah!
Rebels was like really what I think made me fall in love with Star Wars, which I feel like is maybe a hot take. But Hera to me is just very, I think, human, I guess. Like, she just has a very realistic personality and journey. I think I see myself the most in her. And I just love, like, her loyalty and her, like, she's really kind of the heart of that chosen family and keeps everyone together. And, she just stands out the most to me because I just see myself the most in her.
That's awesome. How are you with the transition from her into animation to live action? Does that still
I think
track
they
with
did a
you?
great job with her. Like, perfect casting to me. I wish that we could have seen live action Kanan.
Yeah. I think there's a picture of him, of Freddie Prinze Jr. with like a little thing on the dashboard, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll get it in a flashback in the next season or something.
Also, she's
Ewan McGregor's wife, which is also so, like, because Ewan McGregor is like the most morally sound adjacent to, and then like Hera is too, but then Hera is also with Kanan, who I guess is technically the best of all the Jedi because he's like he didn't get completely indoctrinated into the no attachments thing. So it, like, I feel like that's such a good combo of having Ewan McGregor's like wife play Hera, who's also has that history with Kanan, who is like Kanan and Obi-Wan are so similar. If Obi-Wan just came over that hurdle with Satine. Yeah, I was like Sabine.
They're also like the true like fatherly figure and motherly figure.
They're the parents.
Literally daddy and mommy of Star Wars.
All right, so we talked about the heroes. Kylie, we'll start first with you on this one. Who is your favorite villain?
My favorite villain is Kylo Ren.
Oh, really?
Cool. I know a lot of people, don't love the newer Disney stuff, but I think for me, it's really just that Adam Driver is just an insane actor, and
so good.
Like, it's just like watching a masterclass in acting. I love the sort of like anti-hero almost line that he goes in. He has such a good character arc that just kind of makes you fall in love with him. I'm really not someone, like, I'm not one of the girlies that's like, oh, I love a bad boy, like Anakin, like, not my thing. But something about Kylo, just like his everything is
what a gift to have casted him in those sequels.
And to actually get Adam Driver to do it,
he is like the full gift of those sequels for sure.
Like, we always kind of say like Kylo Ren is, he's a little bit of a baby.
That's what Star Wars villains are.
But he's so multidimensional and like has so much depth and
no, he's the best.
All right. So, same question to you, Ben. Who is your favorite villain?
I mean, it always changes. It always flip-flop. Obviously, Darth Vader is the king. Like, same kind of thing. We don't have Star Wars without Darth Vader. That is the top. But right now, I'm like a little fixated on Count Dooku. Like, I've been loving collecting his lightsabers. Like, I have two of the Jedi Dooku, one from Galaxy's Edge, and one from one of the NeoPixel companies. And I love, that's like one of my favorite hilt designs. And then also I'm playing a lot of Star Wars Unlimited, which is like the Star Wars Lorcana. Yeah. And we pulled like the foil Count Dooku card, and he was great. And now we're in set 3 and he's not so great anymore. So I'm like, I can't really play him in my deck anymore, but I still love the art of that card. And then Count Dooku himself is just such an interesting character, like finding the flaws within the Jedi Order early and saying, I'm out, but then getting corrupted by the dark side. Like, I feel like I see myself in Count Dooku a lot, but hopefully I like I would want to leave the order after realizing
you would do the more Ahsoka journey.
Yeah, I would hope to be more Ahsoka and not get corrupted by the dark side. But Dooku is such a cool character, and the fact that he like warned everyone of everything that's happening and nobody listened to him.
Yeah.
Is such a crazy character beat. Yeah, Dooku's awesome.
Yeah.
Not an underrated villain.
I agree. I mean, anytime you get that actor in anything, it's like, great, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. That too. And the fact that like his lightsaber hilt is designed because he himself is a swordsman, and that kind of curved hilt design is also like translates into sword fighting. Yeah. Such a cool character design. Yeah.
I totally agree. That's the first Dooku we've gotten, and the first Kylo Ren.
Wow.
I think the first Kylo Ren we've gotten too. So
cool.
Hot takes.
With the hot takes, yeah.
Hot takes. Kanan's the best Jedi. Dooku's the best villain.
Yeah, we're just putting it all out there.
All right. Well, as a team that specializes in finding the small things in the background, this next question I'm very excited to hear about from you. We'll start with Ben first. What is your favorite random alien and/or like background character? Think Cantina. Think,
favorite Glup Shitto.
Yeah.
Dang. It's always been since the original trilogy. It's always been the Ithorians. So like when Doc Ondar became a thing, I was like, Ithorians like in the limelight. I'm like, this is amazing. And now I've been fixated on Side Ock.
Okay, I don't know if I know that one.
He is the most interesting Glup Shitto because he's a background character in Rogue One.
Okay.
But then they reuse, I guess, like the Andor team. The like Rogue One Andor team just decided to reuse that costume, and he's also that alien that like Andor randomly. Remember, there's like 2 aliens in basically all of Andor season 1, and he like, and they reused that costume for that guy and gave him a different name. I forgot what his second name is, but in Rogue One it's like Side Ock, and then they just reuse the costume and give him a different name in Andor, and I'm just like, I just need to know more about that decision and why they did that, and pull up Side Ock, and then like the other one's like something.
How do you spell that one? I don't know that one. I'm so sorry.
CYCYED.
Okay.
And an OCK.
Side Ock. It won't even bring it up when you search it.
It's on Wikipedia. CYCYED. I'm almost positive that's the spelling, and then OCK. He's on Wikipedia. He is there.
Oh. Well, I will have to. Oh, it's because my. It's because I had a. Oh no, it won't even pull it up. I will have to research that one separately. I love that. I love that it's like so in the background that
so niche.
Even Google's like, nah.
Yeah, it's on brand for you.
On brand.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting like they just reused the costume and thought we wouldn't notice, but like I'm gonna notice that.
Yeah. We just watched the holiday special, and B. Arthur sings lovingly to an Ithorian at one point and like pats him on the head, and I was like, that's amazing.
Oh my god, yeah. I feel like, is that like deeper into the holiday special? Because every time I turn it on, I only make it about like a few minutes in.
Yeah, our last episode was a watch along commentary track to try and make it a little bit more watchable. And yeah, it's pretty deep in there. It's like towards the back half of the thing.
I was gonna say, like, I would have definitely clocked that, but every time I turn it on, I don't make it.
B. Arthur plays a bartender at the Tatooine cantina, and it's them getting shut down and her singing a like, all right, it's time to go, last call, song. So.
I mean, all right. We have to get past the whip stir.
Oh my
whatever.
gosh, yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's when I usually am like, and we're done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We gotta make it to the Athorian. You gave me inspiration.
Well, and the cartoon at the end is very good too.
That's true. I've watched that separately. Yeah. That I was like, I'll watch that individually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Kylie. Same question. Who is your favorite random alien or background character?
Yeah. I don't know fully if this counts, but I think my favorite is Batcher from the Bad Batch.
Okay.
It's literally just the dog of Star Wars.
Yeah.
That totally counts.
Yeah.
I love Batcher. I was always so nervous about anything happening to Batcher. Mm-hmm. Batcher was the main character for me of Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
we almost named our dog Batcher, but she's just like a little too small.
She's too small.
It's not fitting for her. We have to wait till I have a big dog. But
yeah.
I just kind of love that Star Wars found a way to like fully have in-world dogs, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That's definitely...
They knew not to touch her. They were like,
they're like, we cannot hurt
Batcher.
They gave Batcher a full storyline. Yeah,
Batcher, don't touch him.
Don't touch Batcher.
I love that. I that's not one I would have thought of. But I totally agree. Batcher's great.
I think of Batcher every day.
Yeah.
All right. So I see a bunch of lightsabers on the back there. So the next question is going to be, Kylie, what if you had a lightsaber? What color would your kyber crystal be? What color would your blade be?
I have thought about this a lot, and I go back and forth.
Yeah, I think your go-to is a non-canon.
Yeah,
right?
Which would be pink, which is not.
Cool.
Really exists.
Yeah.
I think if I went canon, though, I would say yellow.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Very
but
cool.
if it was really going to fully represent me, I would say pink. But that's a little too close to red.
It's also closer to purple, though.
That's true.
Yeah. There is pink, right? Isn't like Mara Jade? I'm not a huge Legends person,
I think she was purple as well, but you could argue that a light purple is a pink,
Yeah, there's kind of pink in Young Jedi Adventures.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah.
So I guess maybe in the high.
Have you guys watched all of that too?
Republic era?
We still haven't watched like the last few episodes, but no, we've been into that. You're right.
Okay.
Pink is canon.
Yeah, in the High Republic, I think that pink was around.
Yeah. That High Republic canonized pink
Young
sabers.
Jedi Adventures coming through.
Yeah, right? That's awesome. I started that one, but have not gone back to it.
It's definitely like one that we just sort of put in the background, like while we're eating breakfast.
Yeah. Like definitely for kids, but like has some
fun
great little world building things.
You can learn a lot about like the different creatures too.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. And they do go. They go to Batu. Like they do go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Straight up to Galaxy's Edge. So yeah, but those are the episodes we still have to get to. And there's a lot of tie-ins with High Republic stuff, which I haven't delved into much yet. But for the High Republic people, they should definitely watch Young Jedi Adventures.
Yeah.
Cool. I will. Maybe I'll have to start revisiting that.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. Same question to you.
It's before it was purple, like when I was a kid with Revenge of the Sith was like just purple all the way, purple. And now it's totally white. Like that's I think white is after seeing Ahsoka wield those white lightsabers, and I like the white hilts too. Like really niche hilt in Jedi Survivor is the Centauri Kree lightsaber.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I just love that, like a white hilt with a white blade, like with some gold accents. So it's still taking a little bit from the Mace Windu with like the gold plated Electra maybe in the hilt, and then also like a white blade.
Yeah, that
is my favorite kind of lightsaber design. Yeah,
that's awesome. I totally agree. I love the white blades. That's so cool. All right. So I don't know if you already have one, but if you could have, or if you already have, we'll start with Ben. What a Star Wars tattoo? What would it be?
Ooh, yeah, that is a good one. There's a Twitter account, Star Wars Iconography. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't.
And if you like pull that up, literally any like anything from that Twitter account works like so well as a tattoo. The one that popped up for me was like maybe the Batu creature stall symbol.
Ooh.
Which is like it's like a loth cat. I think that the Batu creature stall insignia or icon. Like this guy posts literally just all Star Wars iconography. I don't know if he's meaning to post like amazing Star Wars tattoos, but that is what he is doing. And yeah, the loth cat like symbol for the Batu creature stall is
that is such a deep cut. I love
that's
that.
That's the deep cut answer. The basic one would maybe just be like Jedi Order symbol.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kylie, same question to you.
I really have no idea.
Like a good.
Yeah, what would you pick for?
Oh, grab the chopper bag from over there. This is a good one.
Chopper?
No.
Okay.
No, so we got the Chopper Loungefly here for those who are listening.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's a bad deal. And then the back of the Chopper Loungefly is like that Phoenix flame.
The Rebels.
That then turns into the the Rebel insignia. I feel like that's a good one if your favorite. If you're one of your entry points being Rebels, and then Hera being one of your favorites.
Yeah, that's pretty genius.
Yeah.
I would go with that.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So big question now. We're going to start with Kylie. What is your favorite Star Wars story? It can be in universe. It can be out of universe. It could be an interaction you've had. It could somebody. My partner actually answered like the entire story of Yoda. So. What is your like favorite Star Wars story?
I feel like my favorite Star Wars story is just like my personal experience that I've had with Star Wars since getting in the fandom, which is like realizing how large of a community it is and how you can create conversations with like anyone because everyone is a Star Wars fan. Like I was at a bridal shower a few weeks ago and I was sitting at a table and it was actually like the bridal shower was for one of Ben's friends. So I didn't know a lot of the people there. And we were kind of like the table of like randos and none of us really knew each other. So there was like a point where none of us were really talking to each other. We were just talking to the person right next to us. And then at some point I mentioned that we were going to Japan for Star Wars Celebration. And it was like, everyone at the table just lit up and everyone started fully talking about Star Wars. Like they had gone to Star Wars Celebration. I think a couple of them were in the major cosplay group that
501st.
In the 501st.
Yeah. Cool.
Like they were all like deep into Star Wars and they were all different walks of life, like all different careers.
Yeah, everyone hides it. But then
and this is a group of all women too. Like this
that's crazy.
And it like brought the table together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. Ben, same question for you.
For me, just like what comes to mind, possibly selfishly, is when we got recognized at Oga's Cantina in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
That was just like so
cool.
validating to like with like all of the work that I've like put into the channel and everything, and then for someone at like we're just hanging in Galaxy's Edge at Oga's Cantina with our drinks, and someone was like, "Are you guys for the lore?" And I was just like, "What? Like that's not happening right now." And I was like, "That is crazy!" Like that was just a cool, like validating, full, moment of just all the work being put in, and having one of the For the Lorians come up, and she like recognized you too because you were posting a lot of videos right up until. Us taking that trip, so that was just like really cool.
That's amazing. I love that both of your answers were about the Star Wars community. Where we want to be a positive force in that community for the podcast, and so I love those answers. It really can be such a great place,
Yeah.
But, all right. So we're going to start with Ben first on this one. What does Star Wars mean to you?
Literally first thing that comes to mind is I feel like Star Wars is just like inherently you're probably thinking the same exact answer. It's just about found family, and that goes back to like what we just were saying about our Star Wars stories being the community is like it's so meta that the themes of the Star Wars stories themselves are found family, and then you also, outside of the Star Wars universe, find your family through Star Wars also. That is just inherently what it means to me. Yeah. It's either that or rising up against fascism.
Also important. Kylie, same question to you.
Yeah, I really can't say it better than that. I think I can add to it by saying that I think another thing that's so beautiful about it is that it really is for everyone. Like it's everyone connects to it, all communities, all ages, like regardless of if it's made for children, like everyone loves it, and we all and it's, you know, in outer space, and yet we all can relate to someone and see ourselves in these worlds. And it's also just like it's fun, like the world building and getting into the lore. Like there's just, it's so vast, and there's just something for everyone, and there's always more to discover. Like we still haven't read the books, so like,
it's a lifelong like there's not,
especially if you're getting into the books.
Like like after hearing that story of like Sam Witwer like correcting Dave Filoni on like a Star Wars thing, I can genuinely say there's not a single person on this planet that actually knows everything there is to know about Star Wars. Like not one, not George Lucas, not Dave Filoni. Like,
I mean, maybe Sam Witwer, but no.
Maybe Sam Witwer, actually. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it is an unending fandom. Like you can never finish it, which is insane.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. My mission for the end of the year is to watch Battle for Endor and the Droids cartoon from the 80s, because that's like a massive
like
knowledge
Battle
gap.
for Endor, we have still not watched that together. I've watched clips of it, but I don't even think I've watched it all the way through. Droids, I did mostly, but only during the only recently. Like, it's like a project, and I love that. Yeah.
Well, we've come to our ridiculous Rathtar question. I'm going to let you work as a team on this one. This is a win-win either way. We like to say it's a win-win either way, because either you get the answer right and you are a super fan, or you don't and you prove that you have a life. So our ridiculous Rathtar question, I scoured for some trivia. I was like, oh, do I do some props? And then I watched every prop video. I was like, oh, cool. Let me see if he's made a video, or if they've made a video on it already. And you had. So I was like, okay, I gotta pivot. So my ridiculous Rathtar question to you two: in what prequel film does the Millennium Falcon appear? And extra points if you can tell me the scene.
I believe I know this. You definitely don't.
Yeah.
I think it's like, is it just pulling up to a hangar on Coruscant in Revenge of the Sith? Yeah.
It is, yep, you got it. It's like bottom right hand of the screen.
Yeah.
It's like, is like this big.
Yeah, it's like a tiny, tiny little Easter egg. The question is, who's piloting it? Why is it there? Like, what is it doing on Coruscant? You know, these are the questions.
And it's before the Lando like remodel of it. You know, like because it has it doesn't have the cockpit.
So that could also mean it is not it could possibly not be the Millennium Falcon.
It could just be
the ship model of the Millennium Falcon.
For sure.
Yeah.
In college, my co-host and I, we were watching Revenge of the Sith, and I was like, "Hey, look, the Millennium Falcon," and he was like, "What?" You know?
Yeah.
So Well, you got it right. When we make eventually we're gonna make ridiculous wrath tar pins and send them out to everyone.
Nice.
It's like, I have no life.
Yeah.
No. You're a Uber fan.
Uber fan. Yeah, no, I love those Easter eggs. Also, like the ET guys and just love throwing it when they throw that stuff in the background. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's the end of our interview template. I just want to say thank you both for coming onto the podcast, onto the show. It means a whole lot to us. And where can our listeners find you? I bet they already follow you, but just in case, if you'd like to plug your socials.
Yeah, we're number 4 the lore on Instagram and TikTok, and I think YouTube, you just type in like For the Lore, like FOR, just like the full title without the number. I think will come up for you on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Also on Twitter, at For the Lore, just For the Lore. I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram and TikTok these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Well, happy Thanksgiving, happy Life Day. And thank you again so much for coming on, and we will hopefully have you on again sometime soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having us. This was really fun. This is a great first podcast experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Super easy and seamless. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to throw it back to the main podcast feed.
And we're back! At the time, I have not heard the interview yet, but I am excited too. Mm-hmm. They seem like lovely people. Their content trips me out because I don't know how they find all of the screen-accurate Star Wars props that they do. I'm always like, my
wait
gosh.
until you listen to the interview because I ask that question.
Nice. Love that. All right. Well, as Zach mentioned earlier in the show, in our intro, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and happy Indigenous Peoples Week. Mm-hmm. So to celebrate that, we are going to celebrate and do a deep lore dive on the first 2 indigenous cultures that we met in the Star Wars universe, throwing it all the way back to 1977. It started with Jawas and Tusken Raiders, or Sand People, depending on who you talk to. I forgot. Who's doing Jawas? Who's doing the...
I think I'm doing Jawas. So
okay, so Zach, tell us about the short... I don't know. Tell us about the short mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, some say they might even be fuzzy. Jawas. What Jawas hid underneath their heavy robes was subject to much speculation from the colonists who settled on Tatooine, with rumors claiming they were giant rodents or devolved humans. Although Jawas were typically small, measuring only 1 meter, some of them were significantly taller than that. One of the abnormally gangly Jawas was almost as tall as as tall as a 3PO series protocol droid, a model of protocol droid measuring 1.71 meters. When Jawas began to walk, they were given moisture regulators and insulated robes that they would wear their whole life. Their robes were originally hemmed to the armpit. As they measure, the hem is lowered to cover their height. Most Jawas measure their height by the amount of hems their robe has had. An average adult Jawa usually had 5 or 6 hems in their robes. According to the gangster Arwen Charu, Jawas had a musky animal odor which likened to the fraternity of wet rats.
Gross.
So they're a little stinky. According to Pelimoto, Jawas were quite furry. A Jawa could often speak both their native Jawais, which utilize scent as well as spoken word to convey meaning, thus making it impossible for outsiders to understand, and their simpler Jawa trade talk, according to them, to communicate more easily with other species. However, the Ugnaught Quill was able to understand and negotiate in their language. Jawas traveled through the desert and transported their droids in their sandcrawler transports. Those are the big triangular-looking things that you see in A New Hope. Defunct mining companies on Tatooine had abandoned these vehicles in the desert once their projects failed, allowing the Jawas to use them as mobile bases. Jawas used ion blasters to stun droids. A little behind-the-scenes facts. The Jawas in A New Hope were played by 12 local children, including Gary Kurtz's daughter, Tiffany L. Kurtz. Their faces were covered by black stocking masks and wired on eye bulbs. So they have those little bright eyes because they were little light bulbs in there. But yeah, how Jawas got to other planets, I don't know, but we do see them on another planet in The Mandalorian. So yeah, Jawas.
It kind of brings the indigenous nature of them into question when we saw them on Mando and stuff. But yeah, they don't really seem to be spacefaring a lot. I do think it's very, very funny. This lore comes from a lot of places. There's RPG role-playing books. There's reference books. There's Star Wars, absolutely everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. You need to know. I do think it's very, very funny that it is now Star Wars lore that the super tall Jawa is a very famous A New Hope mistake. Yeah. It was a crewman or a crew member that was just standing in the background of one shot. That they were like, well, one of them was very tall. I think that is just very, very funny. Because
one of them played basketball.
Exactly. They collectively gave all of their height to that one.
Yeah.
But I love me some Jawas, and one of my favorite moments from Mando season 1 is when the lead negotiating Jawa is talking about the droid, and he's like, "Suga, Suga," and then he takes the big sip of the egg juice, and he goes, "Suga." It's always it's so funny. That was one of the moments where I was like, I love this show. I am going to like The Mandalorian for a long time.
I love that The Mandalorian gave us more Jawa culture, too. Just seeing them interact. Because we only really get it in A New Hope, Yeah. And then,
Outside of that, you just kind of see him walking by from time to time, like, Utini! And stuff, and that's about all that happens.
Well, and they also, we didn't mention it, but they also are obsessed with the Krayt Dragon Pearl. That's kind of a lore culture for all of Tatooine is the Krayt Dragon Pearls, which in Mando we learn is stones that they use to digest their food. There is in other games and other media where you have to go and get one of those for Jawas as well. Everybody wants those Krayt Dragon Pearls,
In Star Wars Galaxies, that's a throwback to an older game.
Yeah.
It was a major side quest to go slay a Krayt Dragon and steal its pearl. But I just wanted to say another sidebar thing that I love about the Jawas on The Mandalorian. I loved that the Jawas kind of kicked his butt.
Yeah.
People forget that these heroes in these stories they shouldn't all be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, where it's contractually obligated that they can't lose a fight. Din Djarin gets his butt kicked by Jawas first time we meet him, But all right, so enough Jawas. Let's talk about the Tusken Raiders. For sure, arguably the most one-to-one in many ways. The more time we spend with the Tuskens, the more time it is clear that they are one-to-one kind of based off of indigenous peoples from our real world.
Yeah.
But so here's our lore deep dive. Tusken Raiders were a species native to the desert world of Tatooine. Their homeworld's harsh environment, which may have once been entirely different, resulted in some of them being extremely xenophobic and territorial of their native resources, often attacking the outskirts of smaller settlements, such as Anchorhead. Some tribes viewed themselves as Tatooine's rightful inhabitants, and all non-native species as trespassers. The Sand People believed that all water was sacred, and promised to them, resulting in them raiding moisture farms set up by colonists. Rare water wells, such as Gafspa Canyon, were also sacred to Tuskens. An individual simply trespassing close to one of those water wells could provoke immediate violence. Additionally, Tusken Raiders harvested the black melons, which grew in the Jundland wastes, providing them with a reliable source of milk, which, sidebar, did not know that was milk that they're drinking on Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, yeah.
But neither here nor there.
It's like cactus juice.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's a good point. Warts, a non-sentient species native to Tatooine, were considered a delicacy by the Tusken Raiders. That's like the frog mouse thing that sits and is eating a desert rat in Return of the Jedi outside Jabba's palace, and then he belches. A nomadic culture, Tusken clan groups consisted of 20 to 30 individuals and were led by clan leaders, tribal chiefs, and warlords. Tuskens traveled in single file to hide the numbers of the individuals in their party. We all know. The culture of different tribes varied greatly, with some surviving by killing outsiders, while other tribes used more peaceful means. At the age of 15, a Tusken became an adult, and the boys had to slay a crate dragon and cut out the precious pearl found in its stomach to gain their adult role in their tribe. Tuskens and their mounts, banthas, shared a close, almost mystical bond. During warrior initiation rites, a young Tusken was given a bantha, matching their own gender, and learned to care for it, with the pair becoming extremely close as the youth earned a place in its clan. A rider and their bantha were expected to develop a great affinity, trust, and respect for each other. When Sand People married, their banthas also mated, and should its rider die, their bantha usually perished shortly after. If a bantha died before its rider, its remains were placed in a large graveyard, which was treated with great respect by Tuskens and other banthas. And then some behind-the-scenes stuff that I discovered for this episode. I did not know this. The Tusken Raiders' barking speech was inspired by the sound of donkeys and mules used for carrying filming equipment to the remote locations in Tunisia. Those vocals echoed off the canyon rocks, sometimes creating a scary and chilling effect, and often ruined filming. Legendary Star Wars sound designer Ben Burt used those recordings and edited along with other animal breathing and wheezing sounds to create the Tusken voices.
Yeah.
I love me some Sand People. One of my favorite Star Wars aliens. Zach, you got any takeaways?
Yeah, just some other lore I'd love to add on.
Please.
Part of the reason that Tuskens are so terrifying is because of George Lucas's wife and the editing that she did. The original, when the first Tusken hits Luke, he originally was just gonna go, "Argh!" And that's it. And then she edited, so if you look really close, you can see that she edited it so that it goes and up and down on the arms. If you can't see what I'm doing when you're listening to the podcast, but it, she made them more ferocious. We've seen a few Tuskens without their masks, and they kind of have this weird pig nose in the comics. We've seen a couple of those. If you're wondering what's under those masks and helmets. And then a little lore that came from Star Wars Outlaws, which Matt hasn't reached yet, but gotta say it. They have those dogs, right, which we see in Book of Boba Fett, which are the Mastiffs. When you're on Tatooine, flying around, they are dangerous. They attack you. And then when you're in Mos Eisley, you see one as a pet, and you're like, hey, how'd you get one of those? And he goes, oh, I bought it off a Tusken. Tuskens are the only ones who can train those Mastiffs. They are the only ones who, can figure out how to train them. Otherwise, they're a menace on Tatooine. So Tuskens are little dog whisperers. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
we like it. Well, there we go.
Extra cool lore.
There we go.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Happy Indigenous Peoples Week and all that stuff. We're coming up to the end of the episode here, unless I forgot something.
No, I don't think we have time for mailbag because we got a 45-minute interview in there, and
we'll
this is a big episode.
Eventually, guys. So, for the next 7 weeks, we're diving in straight into Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Right after you watch that episode, every Friday for the next 7 weeks, with the exception of Christmas. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll probably take a break that week.
Take a break that week.
As most podcasts do, and then we'll come back with a 2-episode review. So
yeah. But every Friday, make sure you have watched Skeleton Crew before you watch or listen to us, because we're going full spoilers.
Yeah.
There will be no things unspoiled, because part of, me personally, very selfishly, one of the reasons I wanted to have this podcast is I wanted to have an excuse to talk to someone and make sense out of the things that I just saw. I was like, hey, wait.
Did you see that?
I'd text them. And they'd be like, hey, I have a job. And I'd be like, I do too, but it's an office job. So, let me talk to you about Star Wars. I was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But, Zach, what are your plans for Thanksgiving this year?
I will be working.
Right on.
I'm a bartender, so I will actually be working. So.
Oh, right on. Well, my bad. Didn't mean to make that depressing.
No, it's all good. Probably Kai and I are probably going to do something on Wednesday and have a nice little time together. So
that's cool. I was going to say this year I will be I'll be having my Thanksgiving without my family. As my parents are out of town and my brother's out of town and my wife is out of town. So I will be in town having Thanksgiving with other people. But Thanksgiving's all about celebrating with whoever you're with at the time, in my opinion. And it's going to be a good time. But, so, Zach, as we come to the end of our pre-skeleton crew lives, I guess as weird as that sounds, where can the people find you? What all do you have going on at the moment?
Yeah, I'm at Zachisfaction on most social medias, but the best way to get at me is through our comments on TikTok. I kind of run the TikTok. And to email us, forceofothersradio@gmail.com. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Indigenous Peoples Week to everyone out there. I am thankful for this podcast and for you, dear listener, who actually are listening to us ramble about our favorite thing. Matt, where can they find you?
Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I refuse to call it X, Matt Beutner, Beutner. That was a good job, Zach. I forgot to ask the actual question. What are you thankful for? Good Lord. I, too, am thankful for this silly podcast I get to do with my good friend, and for all you people that listen and like and subscribe and do all that stuff. I'm having fun. I want to do this for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
We will do the mailbag, I promise. It is coming.
We'll probably have a whole mailbag episode eventually, so.
It may very well end up being that as soon as Skeleton Crew is over, we're just going to do a whole, mailbag just explosion.
Yeah.
But if you have Skeleton Crew questions, send them.
Yeah.
Send them to us, and I don't want to say that that's going to be the priority because we've got a backlog of content to answer for our loyal listeners. But we do want to talk about the crew of skeletons for the next 7 weeks. And there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot, so it must not have been important. But with all that to do, hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration, and I hope that it's fun for you and all those that you love. And with all that being said, and remember, the force of others will be with you.
Always. Gobble, gobble. The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.